So the database was created, and you can see that also a folder called migrations was created in our project as well. We won't be really needing it much anymore. We simply wanted to create a database, but we now need to seed the data in it. Now, seeding the database is not really complicated, but it certainly has its quirks. You may be tempted to start, like I said, entering the records into the database directly in Visual Studio, but it really is not a very good option. Remember, we want the database to automatically create the keys, and in some cases, the foreign keys would not be possible to enter manually. So to seed the database, we are going to use a little bit of C# magic. First, let's create a class, and I'll just call it DB seeding class, and it's gonna be used only to seed the database, and that's it. So I'll just create it directly in the project, and I'll call it DB seeding class. Now this class will never need to be instantiated, so we can make it static. So it's going to be static class. And since we are trying to populate the database, we need to have an access to the DB context. So let's bring that in, and I'll just create a method that will use the DB context as an argument. So it's going to be a public, and again it's static, and we don't return anything, so it can be void, and I'll call it seed data context. And like I said, we need to pass in the book DB context into it. And of course, we need to use the book API project .services namespace for the book DB context. Now this is an extension method for our book DB context, so I'll mark it as this, which will indicate that this is an extension method. And this method will serve as a point method. Basically, when our app starts, we will call it and pass the DB context in it. So now let's write the script that will actually populate the database. By any means, there is no need for you to actually type this. I will provide the whole seed data context method in text file format, so you can just copy paste it into your class. It will also be part of the source code that I will provide to you as well. If you do want to type it, then I will just simply scroll down slowly through the whole code, and you can pause the videos and retype everything you see on the screen. So I'm just gonna copy paste the whole code, and here it is. Now currently I have a lot of errors, and that's only because I need to bring in the models. And you can see with the namespace imported, everything is okay. So what I did here is I created a new instance of the book authors. Now this table has a reference to books and authors tables. An authors table has a reference to the country table, and the book table also has a reference to the book category table, which of course references the category table. And the book table has also references to review table, which then has a reference to the reviewer table. So that's a little all nested together, but basically seeding the book author table lets us seed all the other tables all in one shot, because the relationships and the foreign keys will let the data propagate to all the tables. So in the book author, I created a new book. I simply gave it an ISBN, title, date published. I also populated the navigational book categories class and created a new list of book category, and I added just one called action. So this book is going to be an action book, and I added few reviews for the book, and you can see that I also added in the review, we have also a reviewer, so which I added for each of the reviews. So together I have the book, I have the category, I have the reviews, I have the reviewer, all nested together, and I also went on and created the author for the book as well. So This book is called The Call of the Wild, so the author is Jack London, and in the author we have the country table, which I created a new instance of and assigned the USA. And then I added another book author instance, created another book. This one is called Winnetou, which is one of my favorites from my childhood. It's a it's a Western category. I only added one review for it, as well as a reviewer for the review, of course, and I added the author and the country for the author. And I created another book author right here, and this one is my book, Pavel's Best Book. So I added two categories for this book, educational and computer programming. I added a review for it as well, and I added myself as the author. And then there's another, this one is Three Musketeers from Alexandre Dumas from France, and I added two categories for it, action and history. And there is one more right here, another book author. So a book is big romantic book with few properties, ISBN title, date published. They all do have a ISBN title, date published, and book categories. So I added one category to it, two reviews, that means also two reviewers that are nested within the review, and I added an author. I just made one up from Canada. So this is how I'm going to create the books. So when we run this, all these tables will populate with the data associated with the classes. So reviews will populate reviews and link it to this particular book. The same for the authors. It will have the name added and linked in the book author to this book. And that will go, of course, for each of those books. So this is it. This is the script. We created the book, the author, and along with that we also created a link to the book categories and reviews, and from reviews to also reviewers, and also the author to the country as well. The script is ready, and it will add these few records to our table. But now we need to add all of these entities to our context. So at the end, after we create this, we need to actually add it to the context itself. So we brought in context. If you wonder where it's coming from, it's coming from here. That's where we are passing it into as an argument. So our context dot, and we are referring to book authors table, so we use that one. And now we simply have to add everything into the list for the context. Since we are adding multiple records at once, we use add range method rather than just add. If you used add, it would be only one record at a time, but now we have actually a list of records. So the method is add range, and we'll add the list of books and authors that we just created. Oh, I have the parentheses wrong, like this. So this is basically just a deeply nested list that we created right here. That's our variable. So this adds it to the context, but it still doesn't save it. In order for us to save it, we need to actually call the method save changes on the context. So context.save changes. And with this, we are ready to see the database.